Hello, welcome to the world of Word.
Coming up, another word in your attic.
And if you enjoy this, visit our Patreon to find out more about our exclusives and our general work of national importance.
The link is in the notes below. And now, on with the show.
Word in your attic, a Zoom with a view.
Well, as if by magic, we have another edition of Word in Your Attic, and we're joined by another old pal, who was a former editor-in-chief of Rolling Stone, the fantastic Ed Needham. Ed, how lovely to see you.
Well, pleasure.
Where do we find you? Where is that? Is this the HQ of your magazine? That very impressive backdrop.
Yes, this is Strong Words HQ. Yes, I'm talking to you from the history, biography, and general non-fiction department.
And are they the complete staff of Strong Words? Are they furloughed at the moment, or are they just a little bit late coming in, or could it be that you're the only person?
I'm the only person, Dave. Yes, Strong Words. This magnificent literary product is entirely produced by me alone, with a bit of help from your old colleague Jonathan Sellers on design. But
Right.
I
So
do it myself.
explain the concept, Ed, because you started about, what was it, a couple of years ago, and it comes out every 6 weeks, I think. It's an 80-page literary review magazine, of which I think there's about 35,000 words in each edition, and every single one of them written by you.
Exactly. Well, obviously I love magazines.
Incredible.
And I don't know how to do anything else. So, it's either magazines or nothing. And I feel, books don't get anything like the kind of, this is what it looks like, and this is another one. But I feel books don't get anything like the attention they deserve, and I think often when people write about them, they can be a bit dry or a bit academic, or they make books sound like homework. And whereas I think books are, one of life's great pleasures, so they should be written about accordingly. But it's a big task, So we sat down and worked it out that every week it comes out every 6 weeks. So 5 weeks out of 6, I do lots of reading, and I read.
How many books? So how many books per issue?
Let me tell you. So I read the equivalent.
It's in the hundreds, isn't it?
I read the equivalent of War and Peace every week, and I write the equivalent of The Great Gatsby every issue. So, and obviously, because I do 9 issues.
Most people do the other way around. Most people read the equivalent of Great Gatsby and write the equivalent of War.
Right. So this is obviously far superior to The Great Gatsby, because I produce 9 of these a year. Whereas, as far as I know,
absolutely. Whereas that workshop
only managed 1.
That's right.
But you've been on holiday. I imagine there's been a working holiday.
I've been taking a little French sunshine, but one of the great benefits of working with books is that they're very portable, so they can be read just as successfully by a swimming pool as here in, Studio One.
Right. Are you a believer in the physical object, or do you go in for e-readers and things like that?
I love the physical object, and I was once given a Kindle for Christmas, and I gave it straight back again. I can't.
What, to the person who gave it to you?
I did. Yeah. I gave it back.
I actually don't want this.
I gave it back and asked them to get me something else.
And they said, that's just what I always wanted. Yeah.
But what am I going to do with that? I obviously, I love ink on paper. So, hence a kind of magazine about books. If anyone is going to like an ink on paper product, it's people who are fans of ink on paper.
Okay, fair enough.
So have you, over lockdown, well, obviously not, because you've been sitting there, writing War and Peace every 20 minutes, but have you had a chance to dig through the old virtual loft and find any items that you could,
I have, yes. I have been through the attic.
From your past.
And I literally went in the attic the other day because I was going to try and find some records to show you. But I don't know if you remember that program that was on recently about Chernobyl, where there's a scene in that where they have to dig a tunnel under the melting down core. They get these very burly miners in to dig this tunnel so they can put some concrete in. And it's so unpleasant in there that these miners, these enormously burly men, when the man from the ministry or whatever goes to check on the progress of this tunnel, these huge miners come out absolutely stark naked. It's the only way they can bear the conditions. So that's what it was like in this attic the other day when I went to find these records. But
I have to say, to interrupt, that's the best use of the word burly I've heard for a while, because I saw that film, and burly is the perfect adjective to describe, because they don't look like actors, do they, at all? Those guys.
No. I think they emerged directly from the ground onto the set.
Anyway, go on. Right.
Anyway, so those the records that I was looking for, either the attic either refused to give up its secrets, or they've gone to the four winds. So, but don't worry, I've got an abundance of musically related ephemera. So I'm going to start off with a photograph, and I'm not going to show it to you just yet. I'm going to tell you a bit about it. But when I went in 1999, I moved to New York, as you know, to launch and edit the American issue of FHM. And one day I came into the office, and there was this chap hanging around who I recognised, and I said, "What's he doing here?" And one of the people on the photo desk had said, "Oh yeah, I bumped into him in the street, so I asked him if he'd like to come up here." And he's very easily recognised musician, performer. Our office was on Fifth Avenue and 17th Street, so quite close to Union Square. So this chap had seen this very, very famous individual wandering around the Union Square and said, "Would you like to come up to the office?" So he said, "Yeah, no problem." So up he came, and he started to come frequently. So, you come into work, and he would often be there. And and anyway, so I'm sure you'll get him straight away. So if I can put him there. Can you see who that is?
I can't see from this note.
Go on.
Go
on. You're going to have to tell us.
Is that a bit? No, not
No,
really.
go on. Go on. Tell us.
Okay, well, this is Public Enemy's Flavor Flav.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Who became in fact, the lights on it.
Right.
But anyway, so he very kindly put the clock around my neck. He became a regular in the FHM office, and he's an extremely friendly individual, really sweet man, and quite happily sort of hang around, chat with anyone, give you the time of day. And he was a big fan of the UK. And one of the things he most enjoyed about the UK was when he once was he did a bungee jump on Brighton seafront from a crane with his friend Ice-T. And this was one of the highlights of his life. Anyway, he said, so I said, well, and what about Chuck D? Did he do the jump as well? And he said, no. Chuck D would never do a thing like that. Chuck D is the kind of person, he said, who, when he's driving on the New Jersey Turnpike, speed limit 55 miles an hour, Chuck D speed 55 miles an hour. He would not go, a fraction over the speed limit. Very serious individual. Anyway,
Public Enemy.
And Public Enemy, yeah, and a band also to be taken very seriously. Anyway, a few years later, I was editing Maxim, a huge magazine at the time, circulation around 3 million. So they had plenty of budget for marketing, okay? And they did an event for advertisers, and they had Public Enemy playing. So Public Enemy came on with the security guards and everything, very, serious and intimidating group. And Chuck D, I have never seen anyone enjoy themselves on stage so much. He was just beaming with pleasure. And it was an absolute delight, even performing to a room full of advertisers in their slacks with their Budweiser. He was so happy. And it just made me think, it's really not something you see on stage very often, Obviously, people on stage, they have to concentrate a lot. There's all those notes. There's all those words to remember. You've got to keep an eye on what the band is doing. And there's also something very ceremonial about performance. So people take it really seriously, and it can be very theatrical. But you very rarely see somebody just having the time of their life on stage.
Yeah.
And it made me think about that about football as well. You very rarely see footballers just enjoying themselves. And there's only one person I could think of, which is Paul Gascoigne, who even doing the very basic things of his job description, tracking back or making a wall or whatever, seemed to be enjoying it. And even though football managers say, just go out there and enjoy yourself, players rarely do, or at least give the impression that they are. And it just struck me that as musicians, likewise, never go out there and just enjoy themselves.
Well, no, I think it's a very fair point. I do think there are. I think we were talking about this, Mark, recently, weren't we? I do think Bruce Springsteen. There are moments where you look at him and you think this man is having more fun than anybody's ever had in their life, and every single person in that crowd envies him deeply.
Yeah, we talked
They
about
just-
that fantastic bit of footage of him doing "You Never Can Tell" at I think it's a German stadium, and it's teaching the band to play this song, and just the sense of exuberance, the entire place just lit up. I think he looks like he's in his element.
But I think, generally speaking, musicians underestimate the value of just looking as if you're bloody enjoying yourself. Because particularly for an audience who've suffered to get there, you can at least have the decency to look like you'd rather be in that place than anywhere else.
Exactly.
Right.
They've paid for it.
No, very good. Flavor Flav.
Anyway, so I've also got a copy of the New York Times. All right, so this is a copy of the New York Times from Thursday, June the 13th, 2002. It has a picture of Shaquille O'Neal on the front page there, and some dreary, typical New York Times stuff about tax and Supreme Court and stuff. But down here in the bottom, I don't know if you can see this. It says a new direction for Rolling Stone.
Oh right.
And this was the day I got the job at Rolling Stone. I have to correct you, Mark. It wasn't editor-in-chief. It was managing editor.
Oh right. Okay. Sorry.
That's the highest level a civilian can aspire to on Rolling Stone.
Oh right. Sorry, I did you down there. Yeah.
He keeps the big titles for himself, but that's as high as you can get on. That's the end of the ladder, as it were. So anyway, so this was a big enough deal for Rolling Stone to hire an outsider that made the front page of the New York Times. So it says, the Rolling Stone, the magazine that all but defined the American countercultural epoch, yesterday named a British managing editor who has been schooled in the racy ways of contemporary English men's magazines. Blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to this. So there's a big piece in the sort of business section. So it's got pretty much a whole sort of page there as around a big ad. But written by a lovely, lovely man who's no longer with us, called David Carr, who was their
the media editor.
Exactly. He wrote this fantastic book. I don't know if you know, it's called The Night of the Gun. And
I've never read
recommend this book.
Oh, I will definitely look that up.
Massive recommend, because before he became a journalist, was well off the rails. Alcoholic, drug addict. And so he wrote this book to kind of it's a great concept. He goes back and reports on his own life because he can't remember it. So he tracks down all the people he's kind of got out of his head with, or done over, or been in whatever, and finds out just how much of it corresponds to his own memory or fills in the gaps. And it's called The Night of the Gun because he remembers an occasion where he is with somebody who knows, and he knows, and they fall out, and the guy who's with pulls out a gun. So he goes back and talks to this fella, and he said, well, you've got every detail right with one exception. He says, it was you who had the gun. So he couldn't. Fantastic thing. Anyway, so lovely David Carr, bless him, this came talk to me, and they did this big piece, and of course they had to go and talk to Hunter Thompson at some point, get a quote from Hunter, even though this is long after his time at the magazine. So they say, reached in Colorado, Mr. Thompson, whose articles defined the early version of the magazine, was among those surprised by Mr. Wenner's hiring of Mr. Needham. It seems as if he's in dire straits. Has it really come to that? He said. So that was my endorsement from Hunter Thompson. And of course, Hunter Thompson was
very cheering.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was your first cover for Rolling Stone? Can you remember?
Well, the first one when I arrived was it was actually a Bruce Springsteen one, which I kind of inherited. Bruce Springsteen standing in a field. And then the first one that we actually did was we were going to do this fantastic one of Justin Timberlake shot by Herb Ritts, which turned out to be Herb Ritts' last ever photos. He died soon afterwards. But then they wanted something a bit more rock and roll, and there wasn't an awful lot going around at the moment. So we did it was a rather disappointing cover of The Vines. I don't remember The Vines. So that singer was always a bit of a headline.
I'm not getting the sense of huge sales here. I don't know why not.
Look, let me. One of the things I found. Let's do this very quickly. This is a little guessing game. I found some sales figures from Rolling Stone. 2003.
All right.
God. This is 6 months in 2003. I want you to tell me which is the biggest seller, because one of these massively outsold all the others.
And this is newsstand sales in the United States.
Newsstand sales only.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you the numbers, but one of these, you've got to guess the one which massively outsold all the others.
This is such good fun.
Go on.
Okay. All right, Avril Lavigne, 50 Cent, Lisa Marie Presley, Good Charlotte, and one called American Icons, which was just a graphic cover. Ashton Kutcher, Monsters of Summer, which was kind of Metallica and Marilyn Manson, sort of people like this. Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera together. Clay Aiken, who was from American Idol, Simon Cowell thing, who came second. Eminem, Angelina Jolie, Ruben Studdard, who won American Idol that year, and the Olsen twins. All right, one of those was a massive and massively outsold all the others.
I want to say Eminem, but I'm almost certainly wrong.
I have no idea. I'm going to say the Olsen twins.
No, it was this character Clay Aiken.
Okay.
All right, very clean cut, Christian. Didn't even win the contest, but he absolutely cleaned up on the newsstand, and people understandably went berserk. You know, as soon as they saw it, said, what is this? How can you put somebody like this on the cover of our magazine? So it was a time when people still felt great ownership of the magazine, and so you've got this wrong. You don't understand it. You've betrayed us. All this kind of stuff, and
got rid of all your New Riders of the Purple Sage
exactly. But
devotees.
I remember, and I was talking to somebody. He said, "Don't worry about it." You know, he said people have been like that since 1975 when we put Diana Ross on the cover. You know, it was like that before.
I'm sure that's true.
Okay, this was also a thing from Rolling Stone. This is a thank you letter. And again, I don't know if you can see, this is a drawing by the person who wrote the. Let me get you.
I can see it.
I don't know if you can identify the writer from this sketch.
No.
Anyway, we used to have these lunches at Rolling Stone, okay, and so people would come in and fairly big names, big politicians, big pop stars. They would come in and tell us what they were up to, and they're very enjoyable. And on the sort of premise that you should never meet your heroes, I think the inverse is true, that you should meet people that you kind of have a slightly low opinion of, right? So this is a letter from Bono, okay? So Bono came in, and I was always a bit kind of, tempted to roll my eyeballs at his grand standards. Yeah. But anyway, he came in, and he was absolutely magnificent. I've never witnessed such a charismatic talker in my life, and he was talking about why he was doing his he was talking about why he goes and sits down with all these really rather right-wing politicians in Washington. And he said, well, why preach to the choir? You know, he said, you've got to go and talk to those people who really aren't going to put their money on it and try and change their minds. So, but he was so charismatic, you know, had he stood up and said, right, everybody, you know, follow me, we're going to walk into the Hudson River and we're not going to stop until we get to Ireland, everybody would have followed.
They would have done so.
It was that outstanding a performance. So anyway, after he'd done that, he said, "Can I borrow your office for a second, Ed? Because I was to do an interview or something like that, radio interview." So I said, "No problem." So he sat in my office for an hour and did whatever he had to do. And then later, I got this lovely letter from him. Okay, and he said, so it says, "Dear Ed, I just wanted to thank you again for sitting through my talking shop on Africa and the AIDS emergency. A lot of talking from me and not enough shopping, but I enjoyed it very much and was under the impression that people were actually listening, even you. That will show you how carried away I was at being in the office of a magazine that held so much sway over the life of you two over the years, in fact, holds so much sway. May you also be carried away as you sit in your editor's chair, find the nexus of what is skin and under the skin, what is commerce note, what is writing, what is advertising, what is funny and what isn't, in the much more succinct words of New York's poet laureate, Joey Ramone, beat the brat," so he beat on the brat, "beat the brat with a baseball bat. I must have told him I like the Ramones. God bless Bono." So the point of this, I think,
very good.
That's fantastic, isn't it? And that's a proper
really
thought through, handwritten letter. He is unbelievably charismatic. A man who once at a party sang most of his new single to my wife on her own.
Oh,
she
really?
Came back and was just, she was completely and utterly mesmerized.
Oh, you never told me.
What a charm! Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. It was Anton Corbijn's 40th birthday party a while ago.
What was the single?
Do you know? I can't remember. It was in a movie that they made at the time. What would that have been?
And he sang that to Claire. That's fantastic.
That's right, yeah. I know, incredible.
So my point is, you know, that
Okay,
after, you know, after 40 plus years of endeavour with musical instruments and beavering away at lyrics, he's yet to make any impact on me. But the warmth from this one small
it's
act of
fantastic.
kindness and good manners is still being felt all these years later. Anyway, and the next thing I want to show you is this. This was a cover that we did at Rolling Stone.
Oh, brilliant.
For the 20th anniversary of The Simpsons. So we did 3. Okay, so there's the Nirvana one.
The Nirvana one.
There's the Abbey Road.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And there's also a Bruce Springsteen one, Born in the USA, which is a bit smaller here. And the point I wanted to make about this is that it's really hard to come. There's supposed to be 4, and we couldn't come up with a 4th one. And because it's really hard to come up with iconic album covers. Is the Born in the USA. I don't know if you can see it. Right.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay,
We had all sorts of trouble with the lawyers with this because they said it looks too similar. It looks much too similar. The real cover. Anyway, the point is it's really hard to come up with iconic covers. Iconic obviously can mean loads of things, but in the sense of even people who don't know what they are will go, oh yeah, I think I know that. Iconic covers of records, classic albums with people on. It's really hard to come up with them. All right, they're in that caliber of instantly recognizable. You know, there's lots of instantly recognizable record covers, like Dark Side of the Moon, for example.
But they don't have people on them.
But to Simpsonize them, it was really difficult. It only dawned on me the other day which the other one was we should have done. Bat Out of Hell. That was
yes.
One,
Bob on a motorbike. Would have been perfect.
Yeah. The other one we were going to do was an Elton John one. Elton John's greatest hits. The one of him in his white suit and the kind of Panama hat. But I was like, it's a greatest hits. It's not quite.
It's not the same.
So anyway, it's really. If you're ever bored, then you could try and think of iconic albums with people on that could have been turned into that you could have added Simpson covers to. And it's really.
You could do Patti Smith's Horses with Lisa on it.
You could. Would people get though that
it's a very well known image actually. Anyway, sorry. I'm not trying to upset your theory.
Okay, here's a photo. Right? This is a photo. One of my favourite artists. This is Van Morrison and John Lee Hooker.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. There.
Yeah.
And there's a story about this photo, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. But Van, I'm a huge fan of Van. Van is probably my favourite artist, along with Leonard Cohen. I have more Van records than anybody else. And I used to go and see him a lot in New York. And New York is a good place to see Van Morrison because he plays there quite a lot. But I noticed, before I talk about this, that when he does play, his first gig always begins at 5:00 in the afternoon. And for ages, I couldn't work out why this is. Why does the first date of Van Morrison's stint in New York always start at 5? Why the matinee? And eventually somebody explained to me, well, it's because he's Van Morrison and he's come from Ireland, so he's on Irish time. He's not, so everybody else has to adjust to his clock for that first gig. Anyway, this photo.
So that's a kind of post jet lag thing, is it? It's how extraordinary.
Yeah, I'll decide. When we start, and the rest of you.
So I can be in bed at 8:00.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fair enough.
So this picture, it was given to me, and I came apparently with a story that I had to go back and check. So I was told it came from an exhibition in Donegal, where Van apparently has a house, which a photographer had staged this exhibition. Van turned up for the kind of private view, said, "You're not having that. You're not having that. You're not having that," and took half the photos down and left. This exhibition denuded. So I thought, okay, well, I bet, and this one was one that was smuggled out. So I thought I'd better check this. So I got back in touch with somebody who was there. And I know you like to say, Mark, that there are 2 people in the world, people who like Van Morrison and people who've met him.
But unkind, I know.
So I thought I'd go back and just double check this. So this is not actually from the photographer himself, somebody who knows him. So it's still perhaps a couple of degrees from the truth. But anyway, the photographer's apparently a bloke called John T. Davis. And he's worked on lots of music videos with Van, and this was one he did with John Lee Hooker, which is, I think, perhaps Don't Look Back. And he was put these photos up in a cafe in Hollywood, in Belfast. So not in Donegal, but it's in Belfast. And it says Van, who up to this point was a friend of John's, took the hump sent a solicitor's letter to John saying that he owned them and he had to take them down immediately. Of course, he had to, or he would sue John otherwise. So this is a friend and colleague, and he said threatened to sue him if he didn't take all the pictures with Van Morrison down. So again, leaving the walls empty of this exhibition. Anyway, there is a postscript. There's a P.S. He's always in Hollywood Cafe, and 2 days ago, heavy rain, the waitress pulled the awning back and Van got completely soaked. So poor Van
just deserves
fighting.
Divine intervention.
Fighting against the world's injustices without a break.
I interviewed John Lee Hooker at his home in California, probably about 2 years before he died.
I remember that.
And
with an amazing car parked outside, am I right?
Yeah, I can't remember the details. Yeah, it was a very old car. Yes, because he used to just drive. He used to get people to just drive him down and sit outside clubs.
That's right, just sit in his car.
Be John Lee Hooker.
That's right. They would be ushered in for an audience.
The club would basically come out to see John Lee Hooker, which you would. And for some reason, the subject of Van Morrison came up. And he said, "Oh, me and Van are, old friends," kind of thing. And he said, "Yeah, we talk on the phone all the time." And I thought, I can't imagine.
So that doesn't tally with everything else we've heard.
Because, if you're just going to talk on the phone to a friend thousands of miles away, it suggests that you have some kind of command of what we call small talk, you know what I mean, and concern for other people. How are you doing? Just wanted to check up on you. None of which you could imagine from Morrison. You couldn't imagine either of them kind of getting sufficiently outside of their individual celebrity to kind of do this. I said, "What do you talk about?" He said, "Women." And I thought, what is John Lee? He must have been about 75 at the time or something, The idea that the two of them go, "Oh, I met this bird the other night, and I thought it was a sure thing," of whatever, Just try and imagine the small talk phone conversations between Van Morrison and John Lee Hooker, but apparently they took place.
Well, Van did go out for a while with a former Miss Ireland. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So he had some kind of form. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you a book. All right. This is Charles Dickens' Hard Times.
Right. Okay.
Which obviously I'm a big fan of books. Huge fan of Charles Dickens. I think Hard Times perhaps his least interesting novel. But anyway, I inherited this from a journalist, a fairly well-known journalist who I met at a do once, who said, "I'm getting rid of a load of books. Do you want them?" So I said, "Yeah, I'd love them." So I went around with a van, picked them up, boxes of books. And just slung this on the shelf, didn't pay any attention to it. For some reason, I picked it up recently and started flicking through it. I don't know if you can see this. Okay, so it starts off some normal pages, but Dickens. And in the middle,
what's that?
These. Something secret, hidden away. Compact floppy disks.
Bloody hell.
Containing what?
Who knows? It does a machine.
You've no idea.
Oh, I feel
on this planet.
Have you never been sufficiently curious to want to find out?
Well, yes, obviously, and obviously, I know who they belong to. Oh. Well, I do know I know who they belong to. They belong to me now because they gave them to me. I know where they came from, so I should theoretically say I have your intel here, and it's going to cost this amount. To get it back.
Ed, you spend all your time reading books and writing about books. You must, when a thing like that occurs, think, there's a book here. Surely there's the beginnings of a thriller there, isn't there?
Quite. So it's and rather crudely done, I find. It's obviously first time at it, but nonetheless. It's got
what an extraordinary thing. No, that's the beginning of a movie. You're absolutely right.
I feel chills about that.
Yeah, I do.
I really do.
Obviously, if anything happens to me, you know where to pick up the thread.
You've now shared it with the nation. I hope the person who gave you the book isn't watching this and goes, "Oh, my God." Suddenly, after all this time, there it is. Right. How can I get it back? Oh, God.
Okay. How are we doing for time? We okay?
We're doing fine. No, go on. We're going to ask you at some stage about the greatest record as well. If you've got up. Okay. What else? You've got other things to show us.
Yes, I've got another piece of art. This is from when I was at Rolling Stone, and for the first time in my life, had a little bit of money when I wasn't squandering it in Atlantic City. So
Casinos.
I thought, what do
You're a
people
big
do
gambler.
What do people do with a bit of spare money? So like a true arriviste, you buy some art, right? So I bought this piece of art, and I don't really watch the television very much, but I saw the other day during lockdown that lovely Grayson Perry's Art Club program, and it had on that Vic Reeves talking about his art. And he's quite accomplished, and I'm really praying that Vic Reeves becomes the next, Damien Hirst or Tracy Emin, because I bought this Vic Reeves.
Really?
Who is this?
Morrissey?
It is Morrissey. It is
Morrissey
by Vic Reeves.
That's good.
And,
that's really good.
I'm praying that the Vic Reeves market explodes. But I also have a nasty feeling that it's going to explode, with the exception of his Morrisseys. With Morrissey.
It's possible. The only problem is that Morrissey himself is not doing the best job of promoting the concept of Morrissey at the moment.
Not really.
That's
the concept
true.
of Morrissey seems slightly on the slide.
Do you know what I caught on telly yesterday? I probably watch even less telly than Ed, but I happened to catch the end of a program, which whenever it's on, I always just sit there and think, I watched 10 minutes of the Antiques Roadshow, where there was a load of people at Media City in Salford turning up with their stuff, and I always think, if anything gets featured on this program, it must have some value for them to be bothered to give 5 minutes TV time to it. And basically, anything that's got an association of one famous person is always interesting, and anything that's got an association of two together is doubly interesting. You never make a lot of money out of it, but, if you live long enough, Ed, you turn up at Antiques Roadshow in 30 years' time or whatever, in a car park somebody, and say, well, you may remember there used to be a TV comedian called Vic Reeves, and somebody will go, yes.
And there used to be a pop star called Morrison.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And and you'll be offered some slightly underwhelming sum of money, which you're then expected to go, I never expected.
There's always something slightly patronising about that, isn't
it's
there?
ridiculous.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you can see when they're utterly heartbroken.
Do you know what gets me is the presenters of these programs going, it's worth £5,000. And I'm thinking to myself, you got paid that much for turning up today.
I know, exactly.
The idea that you're impressed with that sum of money is nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Also with the Antiques Roadshow, I think it's a real indicator of how much people's relationship with money has changed over the years, because Antiques Roadshow has been on for 30 or 40 years now, hasn't it? And in the early days, when you used to take your bit of old toot in there, old, chamber pot or whatever, and they'd say, this is worth 150 quid. People would, genuinely sort of totter in astonishment. Now you take your, medals or whatever, and they go, well, that's $3,000 there. You can see the disappointment on people's faces.
You can completely.
$3,000's not going to cut it,
No.
Yes, you can. One thing you can never do on the Antiques Roadshow is go, that's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Because
just throw your thing on the ground.
They would make you retake it.
They would make you do it.
They wouldn't have it. Exactly. Which is a shame, because actually it'd be a brilliant piece of TV.
Yes, it would.
And everyone would be talking about it.
It would be a good Christmas special, wouldn't it? Antiques Roadshow offcuts.
Yes,
disappointed
bloopers.
ones, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple of things. This is something which I just found, apropos nothing, in the attic, from a friend who used to live in Saudi Arabia in the mid-90s. And he sent me this sort of cutting from a newspaper. It says, from the agony aunt in the local rag. All right, so it's 2 questions from an M. Iqbal. Question 1, is killing a non-believer allowed without any specific reason? Okay, that's question 1. Question 2, do you answer questions personally if one sends you a self-addressed and stamped envelope? And the answer is no to both. A stern no.
Absolutely.
Good.
But you keep the envelope with the stamp on it, obviously, and resend it to someone else.
Okay, so the greatest record ever. Now, I can give you 2 answers to this, because the first one is that because I worked on the greatest record ever project when I was at Rolling Stone. So this is 2003.
So you're saying you know the answer.
I know what it was in 2003.
Because you have privileged information.
So let me tell you what happened. We got together an enormous kind of voting panel, and everybody had to make a list of their top 10, 10 greatest records. So it's absolutely immense, and the great and good of the record industry. So, industry folk. There's an enormous, tiny sort of 6-point
good God.
list of all the people there.
Is that all the people who voted? Christ.
Yes, but just to give you an idea of the kind of people, it's Britney Spears, Yoko Ono, Beck, Cameron Crowe, Andy Bell, just kind of picking people out around. Ed Needham, Moby, Flea, loads of them. Johnny Ramone. Anyway, massive, great list.
But you're going to have to give us the top 5 in reverse order.
Well, I will be.
Although I think Dave and I might be able to predict some of them.
Okay, well, I'm sure you will. But what happened is we made this list, top 10s. Processed all the results and took them to Jan, and he said, "No, that's not right. That's not right."
I would do the same.
No, that's all right because. And number one was Pet Sounds. So he said, no, that's not right at all. And he called in a what do you call them? An accountancy company, a big corporate accountancy company, and they took over the counting process and obviously applied some kind of weighting or an algorithm, if you will, fed it in, and by the end of it, the result was different.
Okay.
So this is, it couldn't be more official than that. So this is the greatest album ever, top 10, as per Ernst & Young, whoever it was. So, okay, number 10, the White Album. Number 9, Blonde on Blonde. Number 8, London Calling. Number 7, Exile on Main Street. Number 6, What's Going On. Number 5, Rubber Soul. Number 4, Highway 61 Revisited. Okay. Yeah. Number 3, Revolver. Number 2, Pet Sounds. Down 1 at 2, Pet Sounds. And so obviously number 1 is...
A rap act?
Sergeant Pepper.
No.
Sergeant Pepper.
So Sergeant Pepper.
There you go. Officially, the official number 1 is greatest album ever from the Rolling Stone 500 greatest albums of all time is Sergeant Pepper. However...
I thought you were going to say they'd skewed it to make it look incredibly contemporary.
No. But I do.
So what year were we talking about there, Ed?
That is 2003, I think.
Okay. Right.
December 11th, 2003. So, but I would like to nominate something a bit different because I do kind of feel that greatest album ever sort of do tend to come down to, Beatles fans talking about their favourite records. So I'm going to do this on the sort of pound for pound system, that they use for boxers, so that enables you to compare, say, Mike Tyson with Barry McGuigan. So, even though one of them would smash the other's face in 99 times out of 99, you can still say that, they're comparing like with like. So anyway, so this is a band, they are just as durable as some of these other records. This is a record that's kind of like there's never been anything like it before or since. I kind of feel this group, they didn't really intend to make a record this big, a bit like when Leicester City won the Premier League recently. But my team, probably the greatest ever Premier League outcome, but Leicester never intended to do that. We really didn't mean to. The goal was to stay in the Premier League. The goal was to finish 17th, and we missed it by a mile. It really was. We could never do it again.
It'll never happen again. We won't let it happen again.
No. Yeah. And obviously we tried to do it again the following season, and nowhere near. So it's a kind of one of life's great mysteries. So this is a record. There's never been anything like it before or since. I think the lyrical recall that people have of this record, if they know any lyrics at all, they know at least 80% of them, and probably like to think they know 100%.
God, I don't want you to reveal it. This is absolutely an incredible build-up. What decade are we talking about? Give us a clue. What decade?
Late 70s, early 80s, I would say. Between 79 and... around about 1980, I would say. And it just has such kind of wit and charm and theatricality. British. Yeah.
I know the answer.
Go on, Dave.
Is it New Boots and Panties?
It's not. No.
Okay.
It's
very good.
The Lexicon of Love.
Yeah.
I know it's going to get flattened when you put it in the ring with any kind of Beatles album, but for just in terms of pleasure it's given me.
Right.
Yes. That is my.
Oh, fair enough.
Did you go to the Albert Hall and see the reunion?
I did. Well, last year, yes, I went to see him last
that's
year,
right.
and it was
Because he came back and did the whole record with an orchestra and everything, didn't he?
He did, yes.
What was it like?
It's magnificent. Totally stood the test of time, and Albert Hall full 2 nights running with people who, like I say, knew every single word, every single word, every trill, every little squeal.
Yeah.
So yes.
God, how wonderful to think that you could go to concerts in the Albert Hall.
I know, it feels like science fiction now.
That's just such imaginary, doesn't it? Absolutely imaginary.
Doesn't it?
Oh, well, Ed, that's so brilliant. Thank you so much for digging out all that stuff.
Totally.
Thank you very much.
Well, great stories. And we can only hope that your Vic Reeves Morrissey picture appreciates in value.
Appreciates massively, yes. Well, there is one last favour I'd like to ask of you.
Go on.
In spite of you've given me nothing but decades of pleasure, but I'm going to ask you if you were to insist that all your followers subscribe immediately without further ado.
Yeah, okay.
To Strong Words. I couldn't recommend it more highly.
We'll include the URL and so forth to make sure they can do it.
Absolutely.
Magnificent.
Fantastic.
Tremendous.
Well, back to your next 35,000 words worth of one-issue writing. So lovely to see you, Ed.
Likewise, guys.
See you very soon.
Cheers.
Thanks for doing it. All right. Bye.